Yo, 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 what it do? What it be? It's your boy, A-N-T. Repping the game, gang. Y'all know I don't play none of that. If you's a lame, you can't hang all of that. Bang, bang. Back again. I've been doing top 5, but this time I got a top 10. I've been going through every decade from the 1950s to the 2010s, ranking the top 5 NBA centers in every decade. And just like I did with the quarterback series I did on this channel, we're going to cap it off with a top 10 greatest of all time list for centers that in NBA history. So hope y'all enjoy. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Click that for me. So, you could stay tuned on all the hot content I got dropping soon. I talk about more than sports. I'll be talking about history, mystery, conspiracies, wrestling, sports on this channel. I'll be talking about everything. And you could go subscribe to Game Gang Live. I'll be going live and just giving my raw thoughts sometimes, you feel me? So, like I said, go support the cause over there and over here too, and let's get right into this top 10 list. If my other list wasn't controversial enough, this one sure to ruffle some feathers. But hope y'all enjoy the WWE 2K25 I got in the background and all that, putting together some 5-star matches for y'all type shit. But again, hope y'all enjoy the matches in this top 10 list. I'm not trying to go for any like hot takes as far as it, but you never gonna please everybody type shit. Just, I was trying to be fair and not only weighting accolades and stats, but also weighting in the level of competition some of these guys had to face. I don't really like doing the whole, well, if they could you play in this era, and if you could transport this player to this era with this team, and doing, going too crazy into hypotheticals and letting hypotheticals be the ultimate judge instead of what actually happened. So let's put all that into context, or try to at least. Like I said, can't please everybody, but hope y'all enjoy, because at number 10, got Dwight Howard. And I'm going to be real, I'm not like that high on Dwight Howard, wasn't high on Dwight Howard when I was making the videos, but I got to give credit where it's due. His run with the Orlando Magic made him a top 2 center in the 2000s, and his maturation as a player and his consistency as a scorer and his elite rim protecting and rebounding through his career, even after he left Orlando, made him elite. I mean, he did try to create championship opportunities for himself when he left Orlando, tried to join Houston, tried to join Los Angeles. Didn't necessarily work out until he joined Los Angeles the second time, but by then, we all know he wasn't really the same Dwight Howard. He was really just like the rebound, rim protection guy. Maybe get a couple easy buckets in the paint here and there if you can get a favorable matchup. But other than that, Dwight wasn't even close to even consideration for that Finals MVP, or really wasn't really any kind of MVP in his career. He got top 3, I think, one year. But after he left Orlando, those DPOY votes and those MVP votes just kind of like I said, poof, disappeared. And again, his catalog and his resume for that reason don't really stack up to the rest of the guys on this list. And maybe when some of these other guys, I can't put Embiid up there yet. I don't think Embiid ever led his team to a finals like Dwight did as the main option, so I'll give him that. Maybe guys like Wemby can come along or something like that and take over one of these spots. But for now, Dwight definitely top 10 at 10. Gotta give him credit, gotta give him his flowers. However, like I said, his catalog just don't stack up to the other guys. For example, at number 9, Moses Malone. Wasn't that high on Moses Malone, but after seeing he won 2 back-to-back MVPs and an NBA Finals as the main option. Yes, that 76ers team, he was the main option. They had Julius Erving. I think Julius Erving was like 34, 35, maybe even 36 at his, at his oldest, but definitely not Dr. J in his prime or what he was in the ABA. A lot of the credit does go to Moses for leading that team, and Bobby Jones doesn't really get a lot of credit for locking up Larry Bird in those playoffs whenever he had to see him either. But I had to put Moses up there because he was beating Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Robert Parrish, and those guys are just better competition in my opinion than what Dwight had to deal with. And all due respect to Dwight, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of those great centers in the 2000s that Dwight had to face were older. Shaq was older by the time Dwight came in. Yao Ming was deteriorating beyond belief by the time he got in there. I mean, we could look at guys like Marc Gasol, Boogie Cousins, those guys that played in the 2010s as guys that stack up to Dwight. But Dwight was kind of like an in-between generational guy, which, he might have benefited a little bit more from that. And I'm not going to go into if he would go into like the 70s or 80s and how he would fare against that. But Dwight put up respectable numbers just for his era. And Moses, in my opinion, just had to face better comp and could do everything Dwight could do, except, it was kind of better. It was a better, it was a better scorer, better defender, better rebounder, maybe not a better rim protector, but, I mean, a lot of Dwight's rim protection, again, goes because he's one of the bigger guys in that era. But, again, got number 9, Moses Malone, and, again, won back-to-back MVPs, 2 different teams, and won a finals with one of them. So after Moses Malone at number 8, I have David Robinson, who, as I stated before, he won damn near every individual award you could win at center in a 4-year span. He was the scoring leader, the block leader, the rebound leader. The only award that he didn't win, to my knowledge, was the DPOY, but he was an MVP. I believe he won the finals MVP when the first time the Spurs won the championship. But one thing I got to kind of knock him on is that he didn't win until Tim Duncan got there. He was never leading his team to the finals. Yeah, the West was, it was a war zone back then in the 90s and 2000s. But again, for how good David Robinson was athletically, scoring, defense, and all that, just an all-around great player, and, great guy off the court, too. Military service, military vet, just always a very polite, seemingly guy. So, David Robinson was definitely up there, but he just, again, didn't win enough without Tim Duncan or on his own for me to put him up there with the other guys. Like, for example, number 7, I have George Mikan, who not only built the foundation for what the center position could and should do, he built the foundation for a dynasty. He made the Lakers a household name before they ever even came to LA. Like I said, won 7 championships. And the things that George Mikan was doing in the 50s, at the end of the 40s, 50s, and even kind of at the end of the 50s, still coached, still practiced till this day. Sure, the league when he played was much different in terms of pace, play style, and all that, rules even. But George Mikan's era in general deserves to be recognized. It does not deserve to be ignored or pushed aside, in my humble opinion. He definitely deserves his flowers for not just his contributions to the game, but the success that he had when he played. They didn't have finals MVPs. I'm sure he would have racked them all up. And regular season MVPs and all that. George Mikan is one of those guys and should not be forgotten about by history just because that era wasn't sexy. Babe Ruth is celebrated, and it was damn near the same thing. It was segregated. Except Mikan was actually, and I've talked about this, Mikan was a part one of the most significant games in not NBA history, but in basketball history. The Lakers, the NBA champion Minneapolis Lakers playing the Harlem Globetrotters changed basketball forever. You cannot change my mind. I don't care. So Mikan definitely deserves a spot. Unfortunately, it's just not, higher, but some really talented guys on this list. For example, the number 6 guy I have. And I'm going to keep it real. These next 4 spots, 6, 5, 4, and 3 were all very hard spots to kind of flesh out. Pause. And so without further ado, the number 6 center is Shaquille O'Neal. I know. Shaq is may have the most dominant peak of all time. You can argue. I'll hear it. However, and I might be willing to subscribe to that propaganda more if he didn't have glaring holes in his game and his unwillingness to work on any of them in stubbornness to fix them or work on them drastically impacted his career, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I had Shaq as the best center in the 2000s and as the second best center in the 90s. So I'm trying to give him his flowers, but Shaq won 3 Finals MVPs along with the regular season MVP, which it's a heavy resume, no pun intended. Again, one of the best, if not the best, peak in NBA history. But his game, it aged like milk. I mean, he never developed a good jump shot. I mean, he wasn't very consistent at it. Sure, he could hit him, but he was never consistent at it. Couldn't shoot a free throw to save his life. And never really worked on that either. And I would have to go back and really look at the rosters, but I'd be willing to bet that Orlando Magic team had a lot more talent on it than what Hakeem had and was working with in Houston. Then he leaves to the Lakers with 2 all-star guards in Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones, and they get pushed out the first round in consecutive years. Then the Lakers trade for an 18-year-old kid on draft night named Kobe Bryant. That changes everything. Just so happens. After that, they go on a 3 championship run. Shaq largely responsible for the first one. I'll give him that. The next 2, you can kind of debate on who was the 1 and 2 and all that. There's a whole 6-hour debate with Scap Attack and Gil's Arena if y'all are interested in that. But not here for that today. Shaq, again, I'm trying to give bro his flowers, but the way he's carried himself even after he's retiring, talking down on all the elite centers, telling Joker that he doesn't deserve MVP, like, it just leaves kind of like a sour taste. Like, bro, what do you have to be bitter about? But I think Shaq kind of knows that he left rings on the table. And I think that eats away at him. And nobody really mentions it, but for a sensitive big guy, like, I definitely think that eats away at Shaq, and it shows. And he has nobody to blame, really, but himself for that. Even when he went to Miami, Gary Payton had to pull him aside and tell him, hey, you need to kind of step aside and let D Wade lead us to the promised land. And I know you to be a D, so I love you, but it's what has to happen, my guy. So, I mean, again, this peak Shaq and the stuff that he was doing is legendary. It is the stuff of legend. And I mean, Shaq's years in Orlando, LA, and Miami, again, legendary type shit. But after that, when he became a journeyman ring chaser at best, I mean, again, I'm not mad if you have Shaq in your top 5. If someone has Shaq in their top 5, that's fair. I'll hear the argument for it. He's just not in mine. I want that to be clear. And I feel like I've said before, a lot of that older basketball, like from the 50s and 60s, it gets ignored. It gets pushed aside and not talked about in order to fit certain narratives and make certain players better. But I'm going to keep it real. If this is an all-time list, then we have to go through all time, right? So at number 5, I got Nikola Jokic. See what I did there? Like Nikola Jokic, like no trolling, maybe a little bit of glaze, but he is putting up Wilt Chamberlain video game caliber numbers on unreal efficiency this season. He was drafted in 2014, didn't really start turning up until like the end of the decade, 2018, 2019. Especially like the 2020 bubble playoffs is when he really started to like get a name for himself. But to start this decade of the 2020s, he's a 3-time MVP, averaging a triple-double damn near every season as a center, something that we've never even seen. We've seen point guards do it, but we've seen guards do it. We ain't never seen a big man do it not like this. Maybe if Arvydas Sabonis had came over a little bit earlier, we might have seen something like it. But I'm a keep it real, y'all. This is different. This is real different. And again, 3-time MVP. That's 2 more than Shaq. Got himself a Finals MVP. Sure, Shaq got two more than him in that category. But for the last 5 years, Nikola Jokic has been a top 2 MVP candidate. And not 2 some of those years. Not 3. I'm talking top 2. He's been in the running. And I mean, that has to go for something. Shaq was not doing that even at his peak. You feel me? And just a little, unless Russ starts going crazy in Sacramento, which they don't have a point guard, so it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, Nikola Jokic is on pace to finish with the most triple doubles in NBA history. Right now, today, as I speak, he leads this decade in total rebounds, total assists, points, and total steals. No player has done that since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Kareem led in the 4 stats that he led, I think one of them was blocks. It wasn't steals. And a lot of people say that, oh, Jokic is a cone. He don't play defense. Well, top in steals, leading the league, leading the NBA in steals. Sound like a decent defender, at least to me. I don't know. But right, like I said, it hasn't been done since the 70s. Sure, like I said, hasn't won as many rings as Shaq, but he also hasn't had a teammate on the caliber of Kobe Bryant. Now, I love Jamal Murray for sure, but Buddy ain't made an all-star yet. And playing great this year. Doubt he'll make it, though. We got, Luka and Shea in the West. Unless one of those is just like, no, thank you. I don't want an all-star. Maybe Jamal will get it. But we still got Devin Booker, too. Devin Booker been going crazy. So we'll see how the cookie crumbles this year. But, again, till then, Jamal Murray ain't made an all-star. Like Joker put up, made the finals like that. And Dirk gets a lot of love for that. Now, I'm not saying Joker's run is as good as Dirk's or none of that. Don't let me disrespect Dirk's ring. But we ain't seen somebody carry a team with no other all-star since Dirk Nowitzki. Just throwing that out there as well. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm tripping, but to my knowledge, pretty sure. And I'm going to go ahead and admit I might be jumping the gun by putting Jokic at 5 this early. Again, he don't play the mean caliber of defense that people would expect from a center. But offensively, I think Jokic is better than Shaq. He can hit a free throw, can shoot threes better, can pass better than Shaq. Listen, maybe, again, slight glaze. I haven't seen anybody with better footwork than Joker other than maybe Hakeem highlights. I didn't watch Hakeem play, but his highlights, they may have the second best footwork in the post, or the post footwork in NBA history. Like Joker is offensively just one of the most complete basketball players we've ever seen. Again, maybe a little lackadaisical on defense, but he definitely by far makes up for that on offense. And the stats, the plus, box plus minus, advanced stats, everything says that exactly. So again, maybe jumping the gun by putting him at 5. But if Joker makes it to one more finals, if he just makes it, I don't think he even has to win, depending on how he performs. But there's going to be some tough combos in the next couple years, just putting that out there. And with Joker at 5, my other point to the old school basketball still stands. I got Bill Russell at number 4. Bill Russell is arguably the greatest defender in NBA history, and his willingness to pass and be a team player made the Celtics the most successful dynasty in NBA history. Yeah, George Mikan was the first, but Bill Russell by far has had the best dynasty in NBA. 11 straight championships. I think he's won 13 overall or some shit like that. Definitely deserves to be on this list. I might have him a little high. Maybe people don't value that era, like I said. But again, arguably one of the best defenders of all time. Maybe lacking on offense, but the Celtics weren't winning without him before he was drafted, and they had a bomb squad. They had basically the same Hall of Fame squad with Bob Cousy and all them. They just didn't have Bill, and they kept losing. Then Bill gets there, and they win. And then Bill leaves, and they don't win again until, they did win a couple years later with Cowens, I think, but weren't not as consistently as Bill. They definitely had a couple of very stinky years after Bill left, and he was the coach or whatever, but he definitely deserves his flowers just because his era isn't as glamorous as others. If we're talking throughout all time, Bill Russell is definitely, his success speaks for itself. Maybe he wouldn't, they didn't have the finals MVP in his era. Like I said, he should have got some, if not all of them. Cousy maybe steals some for reasons, but you can stick Bill in any era, and I think his defense carries over. Maybe not his offense, maybe liability on offense, but I think he would find a way, for sure. And his rebounding too, one of the best rebounders of all time. Don't let me disrespect that. Like without a question, the best rebounder in his era besides the next guy on the list, which is Wilt Chamberlain. And I alluded to earlier, not as successful as Bill Russell, but anything Bill Russell could do, Wilt Chamberlain could do, and he could do it better, especially on offense. I don't think the offensive game is even a question. We'll leave that out. Wilt clears Bill Russell offensively. On defense, it can go either way. Pause. But in my opinion, Wilt was keeping up with Bill Russell and his band of Hall of Fame teammates damn near single-handedly at times. I've said, I know it's a team sport, and he did have some all-star teammates some years, like Rick Barry, when he was the most successful. And Wilt was also a terrible, terrible free throw shooter, except for the night where he scored 100. We won't go into that. It's a whole nother video, but yeah, Bill wasn't really that consistent of a free throw shooter either, just for caveat's sake. But again, anything he could do, or anything Bill could do, Wilt was doing better. So I have to put Wilt higher, in my opinion. I would take Wilt over Bill if I had to make the decision. And honestly, Wilt may be the only center on this list whose playoff stats get a little bit worse when he goes into the playoffs. They're still very respectable, but there's very few players in NBA history where if you put them on any team in their era, or even in any era really, I'll make that case. You put Wilt on any team, they immediately become a contender. They become a factor. and they have high expectation, borderline championship contenders, especially in that era. In Wilt's era, you put them on any team, they're automatically like championship contenders. And I mean, the same goes for Bill Russell. I think they both have the same responsibilities and capabilities, but if you take Bill Russell off of the Celtics, I don't think they win 11 championships, but they're still contenders, if that makes any sense. Wilt, you put him on the Celtics, I don't know, man. They might win 100 champ. No, I'm just playing, but they probably have the same amount of success, if not more, with Wilt, in my opinion. Just because of if Wilt bought into the Celtic way and was passing back and forth to Cousy, and they had a 2-man game, I don't think anybody could really stop him. Maybe Wilt doesn't have the legendary scoring performances that he had to put up, but he definitely has more success. That's just my opinion. And some people don't really believe that the 100-point game happened, or some of his stats are inflated, which, I mean, for his era, they are inflated because it was a higher pace and players were playing like 48 minutes, and sometimes they had like no shot clock and different shot clock rules and all that. But I tend to lean on the side that Wilt's stats are legitimate. He did score 100 points in a game. Just because you didn't see something doesn't mean you can't believe that it didn't happen. I mean, there's a whole book. There's a couple groups with the same philosophy. Is just because you can't see something or someone doesn't mean they're not there. Just saying. But 100-point game, real in my opinion, type shit. But that's the top. That's 3. We got to the top 2 now, which were actually the 2 easiest spots, in my opinion. The number 2 center of all time is Hakeem Olajuwon. His defensive player of the years, his legendary dream shake, footwork. He might have the greatest footwork of all time in NBA history in the post. His influence on the game, just teaching everybody footwork, trying to make them better basketball players with the dream shake and putting them through coaching. Victor Wembanyama, worked out with Hakeem Olajuwon this year. Still teaching the newer generation post moves and dream shake and how to do that little, shimmy shake and all that. But on offense and defense, Olajuwon was elite, damn near untouchable in his prime. He was the 3rd best center of the 80s, despite getting drafted almost halfway through the decade. And he was the best center of the 90s, in my opinion, over Shaq, who he beat for one of his rings. That's why I put him over Shaq. I mean, how could you have someone who lost to somebody over somebody? Again, I mean, Wilt did lose to Bill a lot of the times. There were some times that he was busting Bill's ass, especially near the end there. But, I mean, again, I think Hakeem for the 90s was better than Shaq. I mean, 2000s, when Shaq hit his peak, I don't know if he was the better player. I still think that would have been a very tough matchup between the two. But if I had to pick one or the other between Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon, I would pick Hakeem every time. Just if on purely like, from their rookie year, and I know what I have to deal with from both of them, and how serious Hakeem takes winning, and how he's willing to work on his game and get better, and how Shaq kind of isn't, and how he's very selfish at times. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a question, honestly. Again, Shaq's still great, but Hakeem, even though it's basically known now that he didn't want to be in Houston, he wanted to leave because they wouldn't put a team around him. For him not wanting to be there, he was literally backpacking those Rockets teams to the finals. Like, yeah, we all love Kenny the Jet Smith on NBA or on TNT and all that. It's real great, but not that guy in his era, or really any era. Those Rockets teams, could argue, are some of the worst teams to ever make the finals. They're up there with like, even win. There are some bad teams to make the finals in the East, but to win the finals, they might be some of the worst teams to ever win the NBA finals. Not gonna hold you, but Olajuwon, baby, you put him up against some of those Knicks teams. I mean, I think like in the 70s, like I know that Earl Monroe and those guys, and I think I cannot remember their center's name. It's like oh man, it's gonna kill me. But the Knicks center in the 70s that was battling Wilt, he would have had trouble, in my opinion, with Hakeem. A lot of centers throughout history would have had issues with Hakeem. Can't stop the guy, but I don't know. I don't even know if Jordan could stop Hakeem Olajuwon. If he was playing during those years, sure, the Bulls had better depth. They had Scottie and Jordan, and I believe Rodman by the time he got back. They could not hold Hakeem. Not one. They would have to double him, and you couldn't double team in those eras. So Hakeem, with whoever the Bulls is throwing out at center, please, Hakeem is eating his lunch every time. It's gonna be a dogfight all game. So that's really, I don't know if Jordan could get that done. It would be a great series for sure. And nobody's stopping Hakeem. Nobody's stopping Jordan. Irresistible force meeting the immovable object, in a sense. But we'll never know, because the Bulls choked in that Eastern Conference Finals against Shaq and Penny. So, I mean, can only speculate at this point, but Hakeem's 2 rings without an all-star on his team, I personally will always hold in high regard. That's kind of another reason why Jokic is so high on my list. I got to kind of be consistent with that, but he's only the second greatest center of all time. At number 1, the greatest center of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Still the greatest center of all time. I actually still have him over LeBron James on my all-time list, who for 2 decades, Kareem was unquestionably the greatest center in the game. I don't even think you can make an argument that he was, from the 70s all the way up to like the end of the 80s, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the greatest center. And you can make an argument for a lot of the 70s, he was the greatest player in the NBA. And up until Bird and Magic came and all that, you could argue that for around 10, 15 years, Kareem was the best player in the NBA. And, I mean, all of his accolades, his scoring title, without any kind of, like, I don't know how many, if any, 3-pointers that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar made. He had the scoring title making all 2s. I mean, again, deserves all of the flowers, all of the MVPs that he won. He was trying to, he even might have deserved a finals MVP during one of those Showtime Laker runs, but just the work that he put in, as you know, nobody really calls Kareem he was the second option, or Magic was the second option on the Showtime Lakers or anything like that. Kind of really give Kareem the grace, because he was that guy. Even if Magic wasn't picking it up, Kareem would. If Kareem wasn't there that night, Magic would have it. So definitely more of a fair shake than Kobe gets, but it's all good. We were witnesses to what Kobe was doing out here, but unfortunately not enough people understand like what Kareem or Bill Russell and guys from the older generations were. And go back and look. There's a lot of film on YouTube, a lot of finals, a lot of playoff series where you can see just how dominant Kareem was. Nobody could stop him, especially in that era with the rules and how they were. You couldn't really play zone. his devastating hook shot that, I mean, they say it was unblockable, but there's obviously footage of Will Chamberlain blocking it and all of that. So, yeah, no, Kareem, #1 center of all time. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. About to get out of here. Been having a lot of fun with this WWE. As you can see, I got a couple match highlights and all of that. Been having a lot of fun with this and Battlefield and even Baldur's Gate 3. Been on that. Hope y'all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more hot content dropping soon. It's been your boy, ANT. I'm out, y'all. Peace.